Hello there, my name is Martin Henley. This is the Effective Marketing YouTube channel. If you've been here for a second, you will know that I'm on a mission to give you everything you need to be successful in your business. Everything I can possibly give you is about sales and marketing. I think if you are more effective with your sales and marketing, you will be more successful in your business. The way my tiny brain works is if you've got money coming in, you will have money to pay for all the bits that I couldn't possibly help you with: finance, HR, management, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so that's what it's about. I'm here giving you everything I know about sales and marketing. I'm pulling in anyone I can find to share their experience of sales and marketing with you. I am reacting to the very worst and the very best of marketing content on the internet. And every other Wednesday, we bring in the concierge of co-creation at Crazy Might Work. It's Melanie Farmer to talk to us about the marketing news. Good morning, Melanie Farmer.
Hi, Martin. Great to see you.
It's good to see you too. How's business? This is your opportunity to have a little boast. I'm also going to have a little boast today.
Oh, fantastic. Well, business is really good. We're about to launch another public program. So design thinking and so forth. So we're really excited about that. We're getting pretty busy running these public programs, which is really nice. Get a nice mix in the room of participants. So we're enjoying that.
Excellent. Cool. Do you want to hear about my boast?
Go for it.
I managed to produce a what the video.
Oh,
It was
wow.
March last year that I produced the last one. The reason is, there's a reason. Do you need to know the reason? It's an excuse, really. I came home one day and basically my office was getting demolished. It was as much as I could do to get my computer and my desk out of the way, literally. Not demolished so much as maybe refurbished, but in a very demolition kind of a way. And then I haven't produced one for all that time. But last Monday, I produced one, and the mission is there's not going to be one today, because the reasoning is if it took us 15 months to produce the last one, we can go 2 weeks for the next one. But the mission is to start streaming them live. So I'll be here doing the whole explanation thing. And the next one might be interesting to you because it's about brand marketing. But it will
Oh,
be
yeah.
next Monday, it will go live. Yeah, so I'm really excited about that. It only took 15 months.
Fantastic. What a milestone. Well done.
What a milestone. Yeah, what a terrible, terrible milestone. Because I'm supposed to produce these every week. And when I started the talk marketing thing, there were 23 what there's. And now there are 58, I think. We're uploading 58 of the talk marketing today. And there's still only 23 of the what there's. So what there has to catch up. Although it will never will, because now we're posting 2 of the interviews a week. Anyway, that's what's going on the Little Effective Marketing YouTube channel. I'm quite excited about that.
Nice. Oh,
Good.
yeah. Do you like that?
Good. So anyway, we are here to have a little boast, but we're also here to talk about the marketing news. So this is very simple. You bring a couple of stories. I bring a couple of stories. We talk about those stories. We conject wildly about what those stories might mean for us as marketers. And then we go about our lives again. So do you have a couple of stories for us?
Yes. I have the story of McDonald's who have turned their logo into a swing and they've put it all in different places around Dubai. And so it's this idea that the logo is now, you've got these golden arches at a giant scale and a swing hanging off the middle. So you're swinging through the middle of the arches.
Wow.
Um,
Do you have a headline for that story?
yeah, take a swing in the McDonald's golden arches. 4th of
Okay,
July.
great. So that one sounds good.
Yep. And the second one is about celebrity partnerships, which is a pet favourite of mine, and I'm not sure if I want to talk about it as news but I'm always interested in this in endorsement. So the models and so forth. So it's authenticity. Authenticity is the cornerstone of successful celebrity partnerships. That's the heading, but it's also um, the gist of the story about it's around influencer marketing and all of that.
Okay, good. Partnerships. So authenticity is the cornerstone of successful celebrity partnerships. Okay, good. Right, so I've got that as well. I've got a bit of a quandary going on, I'll be honest with you, because it seems to me, well, I was supposed to go surfing this morning and then I didn't go surfing, so I was up at stupid o'clock and I've been sitting at my desk for like 5 hours already. So I've been
Wow.
doing a really good job of this. And it seems to me, are we not talking about Elon Musk welching on the purchase of Twitter? You didn't think that was worthy of comment? Or that's one that I've got. The Lambda thing, the Google sentient artificial intelligence, has hired itself a lawyer. You didn't think that was worthy of
Oh my
comment?
gosh, really?
The
I
British
had no idea.
Army, the British Army had their YouTube and Twitter accounts hacked. The British Army. What else have I got here? Google and Apple should remove TikTok from their app store, says the FCC Commission. Google Analytics. I don't know what I want to talk. I think I do know what I want to talk about. What else have I got? Google Marketing Live 22 happened. We don't want to talk about that. I've got loads of those. And here's your two. I don't know. What do you think of all of those? I think we should probably talk about Twitter because it's probably the most pronounced thing that's happening in marketing. And then the other thing I want to talk about is Google Analytics. So there we go. We'll narrow it down to two. So we should probably start with, you think we should start with Elon Musk and Twitter?
Can you hear my dog going berserk?
Only ever so slightly.
Can I pause and let her in? Because she's standing like she's going to start barking her head off right next to me otherwise.
Okay, cool. You can do that. No problem.
Just one second, so she stops. So Twitter, talk to me about Twitter. What the heck is
Twitter? So this is what's going on now. Musk effort to kill deal leaves Twitter with only bad options. Billionaire wants to walk away from $44 billion purchase. Twitter says it will take Musk to court to force the sale. What's going on here? Elon Musk's effort to dump his agreement to buy Twitter leaves the social media service worse off no matter the outcome. If the Tesla chief executive officer succeeds in ending the deal, Twitter stock will likely freefall, and a staff already dejected by Musk's months-long public criticism of the site will suffer another emotional blow. Oh my God. If Twitter prevails in court, the company will be run by an unpredictable and reluctant owner while still struggling to meet ambitious growth targets. Musk's regulatory filing Friday announcing plans to walk away from his $44 billion purchase touched off a nightmare scenario for Twitter where only bad options remain. Chairman Brett Taylor responded by vowing to enforce the deal in court, but the company's leadership is already losing the trust of staff after months of uncertainty and stress. It's a soap opera, isn't it? It's a soap opera. The thing is, we spoke about this quite at length before, at different times when it's been happening. But so there's a couple of things that strike me. Didn't he already buy $9 billion worth? So does he already own a quarter of this? Did that actually happen or not? I don't know. I'm going to
a Amber Heard and just pledge it.
He could do an Amber Heard and just pledge the money, maybe. But it was like literally he has bought $9 billion worth, and then almost immediately it was he wants to buy the whole thing for $44 billion. The thing is, I think what's becoming abundantly transparent is what we thought originally, which is Twitter isn't worth anything like $44 billion. I still have a question about whether this is even a marketing story, because Twitter is clearly an appalling marketing platform. I've never been able to recommend or find any value in anyone spending money with Twitter. And so I was surprised. I can't remember what it is. Is it $4 billion a year they make in advertising? I've got no idea how. They're not even doing the regular social media thing, which is owning data, because you literally sign up, you put in a username and a password, and you are on their platform. So it seems to me, I'm going to swear, it seems to me that Twitter is a steaming pile of shit. It clearly isn't worth anything. And what's broken the deal is trying to understand how much of what goes on Twitter is actually going on Twitter involving real human beings, and how much of it is just spam bots. And it seems to me, I guess one time, I don't know if you remember, it's 50%. I think that's where Elon Musk has got to. And can you imagine taking somebody to court to force them to buy something that they've spent the last 3 months assessing and decided it's not worth the money? Now he's going to stand up in court and say, this is why it's shit, this is why it's shit, this is why it's shit. Is this the end for Twitter, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, I do think so, because I think, you know, potentially the value in Twitter is the perception of numbers.
Yep.
And so, in a way, that's a fraudulent action in this, that but saying that is allowing it to survive so that those who are on there are getting whatever value they want to be getting out of Twitter. So, but without that inflated value, there's not enough on there to make it a sustainable business. And so it needs to be inflated to survive. So it's the whole business model, I think, would collapse if that all came out and went into court, and you realised that anything you'd been expending on Twitter is actually 20% or less worse than what in terms of the audience you're reaching, etc.
Yeah, 100%. And I think the word is fraud. That 100% is the word, because their value proposition to advertisers is you will be reaching these numbers of people.
That's
and
right.
They've been arguing about whether it's 5%. I honestly think 50%. I honestly think 50%. If I spend a minute looking at Twitter, I'm convinced that half of that minute was looking at spammy bot type driven stuff. Now, the thing that we didn't cover before, because I didn't really know then, is that it could be fixed 100%. Even if it has only 100 million daily users, they're claiming 200 million, that clearly could be a worthwhile advertising platform. 100 million people a day who all have mobile phones or access to computers or whatever, that could be useful. What they would need to do is kind of register the users, charge them $5 a month. That's 100 million times 5. There's revenue straight away. Get them to put in their name, their telephone number, their address, their whatever it is, their credit card details. This would all be really useful. It would end all of this awful stuff that goes on, the bullying, the racism, the whatever else is going on, the threats. It would end all of that, because now they know where you are and they've got your bank details. So it could be fixed. It can't be fixed because it's a fraud. It's like, and I'm not a huge fan of Elon Musk. I'm really not. But it seems to me that he might have done the world a service with this, where he's actually shown Twitter up for what it is. And if it cost him $9 billion to buy 25% of it, he can't have paid that money, because then he wouldn't be walking away, surely. It could be fixed, but they are too busy covering up for the fraud that they've perpetrated for Lord knows how many years.
I think because they claim they've got 450 million users a day, but
Is it
they're
450?
also 450 million users a day. Now, what does that mean? Are they these people in there active? But they're claiming there's 450 million a day. This is Twitter themselves.
Yeah.
But they're also saying that they remove 1 million a day spam accounts.
Yeah.
Which is a lot. So does that mean in a year they've removed everyone?
365 million.
People are coming and they're going, in 450 days, they are removing that same number of spam accounts.
365 million spam accounts a year they're removing.
Well, 1 million, yes. 1 million, they're saying that they're removing 1 million a day. Now, of course, it can be that that's someone, there can be bots and whatever spam that are coming in and they're out again, they're coming back in again. So it can be the same. But if you're thinking about you're removing 1 million a day, how many a day are joining that are spam?
Yes.
Is there 5 million a day joining? And we don't. there's a lot of questions I would have about how is that just how many you absolutely are removing? Doesn't there might be way more that is spam, but I think this will all come undone in court if it gets there. It's not going to be good for Twitter, no matter what. I think
They can't possibly take this to court. They can't possibly have Elon Musk standing up with his now 100 million Twitter followers, by the way, who probably
yeah,
aren't bots. You can't have him standing up and talking to 25% of their daily users saying this is bullshit. You can't. And
this is
demonstrating, that can't happen. So it looks to me like Twitter's broken itself in this exercise. Do you know what I mean? And if they hadn't
yeah,
been so resistant, hostile to him on the way in, if they called him in and said, look, this is actually the deal, then maybe
yeah,
this could have all been resolved and it's not worth 44 billion. Maybe it's worth 10 billion. Do you know what I mean? Maybe this could have all been resolved. But because they were so hostile to it in the first instance, they didn't even have him on side. Do you know what I mean? It's like, why would you not do that? It's insane. The other thing that gets my goat a little bit is that we're worried about the emotional trauma that Twitter employees have had to go through because they were so traumatized that he might be the owner, and now they're so traumatized that he won't be the owner. And it's just been like, my God, it's insane. It's a soap opera. That's what I think.
yeah. Well, I mean, I do have some empathy for we've been through pretty sustained uncertainty, so people generally are heightened and hyper vigilant at the moment. But that being said, in that world, you've got to know what you're dealing with. You're talking about social media it's a very uncertain world. But it
Yes.
is interesting to me that an apparent elephant can just be taken down in a matter of weeks. That's pretty unusual.
It's
Um,
pretty unusual, and I would say, what else would I say? I would say it's kind of indicative of how empires fall. Do you know what I mean? They fall very quickly. I mean, and it hasn't fallen, so maybe we're talking out of turn, or it hasn't fallen yet. So
I'd
yeah,
be
so
interested to see how many people have signed up to Twitter to, check it out because of this whole press attention. Just to go, what is this, so I can have an opinion about it. I mean, or if it has had no effect whatsoever on the rate of
yes.
people doing it.
I don't think it can have had. I mean, I don't know. I suppose all we can do is just watch the soap opera continue to unfold.
And there you
But
go.
yeah, maybe he's done as marketers. I can't imagine why a marketer would even want to advertise on Twitter. It still astounds me, this idea that there might be $4 billion a year. Yeah, it astounds me that anyone would spend any money on Twitter at all.
I think what's interesting is that PBS News are reporting in the US um, that he sold 8.5 billion worth of shares in Tesla to fund the initial purchase.
Yeah,
So, I mean, it's a bit, that's a lot of money no matter what. So, I
yeah.
mean, if he's a smart businessman, is he just radically ethical and money doesn't matter? Or has he made a misstep and then this is actually going to cost him Twitter? Because if it ends up in court and whatever, one way or another, he's destroyed Twitter. Is he going to have his money back? I mean, I don't know how that's going to work. But I mean, saying that, it's being reported as everything on hold, so maybe he hasn't actually parted with money yet.
I would imagine he probably hasn't parted with money because I do think he's a very clever person.
Yeah,
And I think it happened so quickly. It was like, okay, now he's already spent 9 billion. Now he wants to buy all of it. It happened so quickly, and then it went through due diligence, and kind of nothing's happened for 2-3 months, however long it's been. I'd be surprised if he spent any money. I'm doing these reaction videos, and I did a reaction. There's a video talking about how he spends $0 on marketing, and he actually spends all of his money doing all these outlandish things, so that he's always in the news and always in the press. So maybe this was just another huge PR exercise to make sure we're all talking about Elon Musk all of the time. And maybe he
Yeah.
did want to make a point about, the bullying that's gone on. What's also happened is that Jordan Peterson has been ejected from Twitter, hasn't he, in the last couple of weeks? So there's more censorship still going on. I don't think he did anything to harm anybody. Do you know what I mean? I don't think he actually broke any actual free speech rules, but he offended Twitter again. So that's what's going on with his Lord knows how many millions of followers on Twitter as well. Interesting.
Yeah, well, but he could have. I mean, Twitter can push for a 1 billion termination clause, so they can say, okay, well, you're not going to proceed. But they do have a clause whereby he would have to pay them $1 billion damages, whatever. But they didn't go for that. It looks like they want to go to court and say, no, we want you to proceed. So they could have just had $1 billion more easily than which is just an exit clause.
But you imagine you advertise something on eBay or whatever you have in Australia, and somebody says, I really want to buy it. Can I come around and look at it? And then they look at it and they're like, no, it's an absolute piece of shit. I don't want to buy it. And you say, right, I'm going to take you to court to make you buy this. I mean, it's just ridiculous. It's preposterous, isn't it?
And then, but imagine saying, I've held it, so there's a holding fee, fair enough. If it was a Mercedes, well, I won't show it to anyone else, whatever. So they have this legal clause, which is if you exit, there's $1 billion. You've got to pay $1 billion. Whatever fee, and they're like, no, we're going to double down, which is an interesting choice. So you do wonder how much of emotion is driving decisions, and how much pragmatism is in that boardroom.
Not very much. I'd say it's largely
pride. Can we make
pride.
Smart decisions, or are we all going to just give into our emotions here? It's like it's a pretty interesting thing, having it all play out how it is. I mean, you just sort of think, what's the best thing we could do right now?
Yeah.
Let's face the reality that going to court is going to be bad. Even if it were good, it would be bad, because it would result in the best possible scenario in going to court is a hostile takeover and the departure of most of our employees, potentially.
Unless they're also calculating that the PR of being, I mean, if it becomes like an Amber Heard type, Johnny Depp type case, everyone's talking about it for 6 weeks or however long it goes on. But really, oh my God, it's just pathetic. I mean, Twitter has its place in the world. It is basically a gossip, scandal, bullying platform. Do you know what I mean? That's the value that it adds in the world. But clearly, I don't think of no value as a marketing platform, unless you want to sell, I don't know, copies of The Sun or the National Enquirer. Maybe that's a good place to advertise.
If you've just articulated their values correctly, then it should come as no surprise what's happening behind the scenes, if that's true. Just really saying our values is one of the 7 deadly sins, away we go, and we're off. So, but I mean, I think it's got to be hard working there and having a different idea of what it was. But I mean, leave, go and find somewhere that has got the values you thought you signed up for, I guess.
It's ridiculous, isn't it? It's absolutely ridiculous. Okay, cool. So maybe on exactly the other side of this very same coin is your second story, which is authenticity being at the cornerstone of celebrity partnerships. So this has come from marketing something. So tell us about this.
This is more of an informational article, and they're talking about like the latest, some of the latest findings around this. What is interesting to me is, I guess I see this as being pretty simplistic view of endorsement. I wrote a paper on endorsement and referenced 20 other papers on endorsement to arrive at my paper. So this is taking one element, which is, yes, you need to be authentic, but there's whole science behind choosing an endorser, which is the tiers model developed by Shrimp in 2010. So we can't decide what toilet paper to buy unless someone's endorsed it. So you know the star rating and all of that. And there are hundreds of cases for how this is done. But that article, for me, it just grabbed me because it was somebody who knows one thing and then is presenting as an expert overall, as if no one had thought of this.
Yes.
It happens all the time. It happens all the time. And then the true experts, it's like trying to actually, this person is writing, now I should be writing for that article. I should be talking about, or Shimp themselves, who developed this model of, like, you need to look for someone who has trustworthiness, expertise, attractiveness, respect for their achievements, and similarity in demographics to your buying audience. Ideally, those 5 things. And so this is a known model from 2010 based on a lot of data. And so this, to me, it's just interesting how, almost anyone can be an expert, and they just sort of, it doesn't look like they know. It's a marketing company who's written this, an individual at a marketing company. I don't know how but it does present as though, this person's a super expert. But the fact that they've not referenced, the core model of the sector for endorsement, it always worries me.
Okay, good. So you've brought this to our attention because you don't like it.
That's it.
Okay,
it annoys me when people are experts and they're not.
Okay, good. So do you know what's going on? Because have you heard of a thing called Jasper?
No.
Okay, so Jasper is an AI. What does AI stand for? Automated intelligence. No, automated. The other intelligence. Artificial intelligence, not real intelligence. Content creation tool. So literally what you do is you put in a headline and you press a button and it starts spewing out content. So the problem here is that these articles, like, it's attributed to this guy, this what's
Vice
his name?
President of such and such.
Yeah, at Molecule, Stephanie Borman, sorry, female, is the Vice President of Global Marketing Communications at Molecule, spelled with a K. So it's attributed to her, and we're not saying that it wasn't written by her, that's fine. And maybe she is an expert and she hasn't really done a great job of presenting her expertise in this article. But as easily, it could have been produced by a bot. It could have been produced by this AI content creation tool like Jasper. There are other AI content tools available. So the question becomes, what can we actually rely on? I mean, what's interesting here is that the influencer market is huge. $9.7 billion in 2020, $13.8 billion in 2021, and expected to go to $15 billion by the end of 2022. This kind of gets to me to be a bit meta, doesn't it? It's because, so we're being influenced now by this article, but who actually produced the article, and are they?
It's been growing really. You can go back to Queen Elizabeth and Queen Victoria for endorsement and decision making, but as time has gone on, the growth has been sitting around 30% annual growth in endorsement, for decades. So it's that stat isn't actually, what's interesting to me is that it hasn't changed. That's what's interesting, is that this trend for 30-40% growth in influencers hasn't declined. In fact, it's stayed at that ridiculous growth rate. So to the point where we can't dress ourselves without someone having endorsed the way that we do whatever. But there is a science behind choosing the right endorser, and just reading that article is very simplistic. And yeah, it annoys me that there's it's editorial integrity in these things, and it's a thing. And I'm probably just an old woman now getting annoyed by somebody throwing something together with no substance, and it's frustrating, that they're claiming this expertise, but I'm like, this is not great advice. I will be honest. I just don't think that it's the best advice that this person is giving, if it is in fact their advice. There's so much advice you could be giving.
Yeah, this also annoys me, and I'm not an old woman. I'm an old man, an older man, middle-aged. I don't know what I am. The thing is this is like we talk about this quite often. Is about this publishing swindle. It's like we've been convinced that we have to be producing, and it's kind of true because it's kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy, but that we have to be producing content and content and content and content. And actually, they've decided that what they want to do is rank for influencer marketer. So they now need to produce 800 words about influencer marketing. And it doesn't have to be true necessarily. It just has to be that thing. Do you know what I mean? And maybe they've got an influencer marketing agency or contact or something. Influencer marketing is a good idea. We're in marketing, influencer marketing, influencer marketing, influencer marketing. This is where we've got to, where actually the job of part of marketing is just to produce content, words and words and words. And
right response, because I've just had an emotional one, the right response is for me to email the editor of Marketing Mag and say, if you want a real story about this, I've got 5 headings. Here they are. You pick one, but I'm anchored in science, and I actually know things. So there's some really cool stuff that I could share that would be of high value, and that's what I should be doing.
You should do that. That is 100% what you should be doing. But you don't even need to say but anchored in science. You can say, look, here's 5 really cool headings. I can produce all of these pieces for you, and they're all anchored in science, and there's some really cool stuff going on here if you might be interested. Do that and see what the response is. Because the response is going to be one of 2 things. Either there is hope for human society, and they will say, fantastic, Melanie, thanks for getting in touch. We would love for you to do that. Or they will have satisfied their need to put 1,000 words on their website about influencer marketing, and they won't even be interested to have a conversation with you. So
yeah, we've moved on. We're doing that with etc. Yeah.
Yes. So that's not actually about an integrity being the key. Like, there's no integrity in this article. Do you know what I mean? It's like, and is integrity the key?
In Stephanie's defense, if Stephanie's written this, probably has direct experience and is writing from her direct experience. Let's say the best case scenario is that's what's happened.
Yeah.
And perhaps she, in the journey to that, has some expertise in terms of, at university or whatever, learned about, the basics of endorsement or something. I don't know, but or just authentic marketing, let's say. But there's just like such a massive hole in that information. It does make me think that everything else on that site is also full of holes. So if there's something that I know nothing about and I read an article on there, I'm now going to assume that it's full of holes and they haven't checked, and it's not a great source for advice, which I think if I were the editor, I would be a bit worried if that were true. Now, I'm not saying that, I don't know who their target market is or what their particular editorial values are, etc. And this, perhaps that's not as important. But I just sort of think that's my reaction anyway, is to say there's so obviously some gaps basics that are not covered there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, reach out to them and let us know next time we speak what their response is, because then we'll know. Because actually, I think the job of an editor has changed. Like historically, like when you and I were young, when, just after the printing press came along, then editorial integrity was like a really important thing because you really wanted to build trust with your readership. You really wanted to build readership, you wanted people coming back, people to share your opinions, to understand your opinions, to trust you. But now I think it's all clicks. I think it's just literally in maybe the same way that Twitter is like there was a hit showed up on our website, and so we could tell an advertiser that somebody else saw their ads. Do you know what I mean? I think maybe it's got to that point where editors aren't any longer about editorial integrity. I think they are now about how many clicks can we get,
Yeah, and I guess it also marries into brand guidelines, which is the other story we may or may not get to. But
We'll get to.
does this fit on with the grand scheme of things? Is this marketing made 101?
Yes.
So yeah. Anyway, there you go. So that's just me being annoyed and grumpy that experts aren't experts.
Okay,
No
well,
surprise.
this goes to like this might be the theme for today, which is like, who can you trust? Like, it's fake news. I mean, it's all fake news all the way down. All the way down. Okay, cool. Shall we go to my second story, which was this
Sorry,
one?
Stephanie.
Was that?
I'm apologising to Stephanie, who I'm sure has some great experience, but could do with reading my article to just, round it out.
Yeah, maybe
Or
she should
maybe
cite you.
sort up. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, but we don't know how much pressure Stephanie is under to be producing this stuff.
That's
Do you know what I mean? I mean, maybe
fair.
it's, yeah, maybe there's not. Who knows what the model is? I don't know. I don't really want to say anything litigious. They can try and sue us if they like. I haven't got nothing. Have you got anything?
No.
Okay, good. That won't work for them either. Good. Right, which takes us then to my next story, which is this one about Google Analytics losing track of millions of users as regulators ban the service. So what they're saying, the European Union has been after Google for abuse of its monopoly power in mobile search engine applications. Now, a growing number of countries in the Union are going after the use of Google Analytics for violations against the general data protection regulation. Italy is the third and latest country to prohibit the service, which lets webmasters track and analyze their site traffic. The government stated in its decision that rafts of information, including IP addresses, are collected via cookies and transmitted to the United States and could potentially be seen by third parties and the governments there, violating the GDPR as users aren't ensured due process for redress. Italy's competition authority has cited domestic web service providers Cafina Media, giving them the firm 90 days to transfer its account away from Google Analytics. So I think this is interesting because I teach digital marketing, and the reason we have digital marketing is for the transparency. And, I've been saying for a long time that governments are too weak to actually take on these platforms. Well, maybe they are strong enough. Maybe it is going to make a difference. I think Google Analytics goes away next year anyway. I shudder to think what might be coming through to replace it. I've recently set up a customer with a website, etc., etc. We've installed Google Analytics. It is a shell of what it was previously. Like, the information that I rely on to report to my customers isn't actually available. Very basic stuff. I want to know how many users there have been, how many sessions there's been, how many users, how many new users. I want to know about the duration. I want to know about the number of pages they've visited at the very top level. So we can say, okay, the website's worked this month, or the whatever it is, like the marketing's kind of worked at that level. If it doesn't work, then we drill down, but that's the basic level. So I'm a little bit alarmed about Google Analytics is going away. I don't know what's coming next. Google don't have a great reputation for evolving these products. They have absolutely no idea, in my experience, how customers actually use and rely on these products. So they can't be trusted at all. It's kind of like an overreach is the problem, because the first thing I talk to people about when I teach them Google Analytics is, you're never going to need 96% of this stuff. So it must be that 96% of stuff that's offending. Like, I don't need to know the IP addresses of people on my website. It's not useful to me. You know, it's not useful. I can say, okay, they're a business or they're with this ISP. It's not useful to me. So why be collecting that information? I don't know. I'm a little bit worried about Google Analytics. I'm a little bit worried.
I tell you what, I am really excited about Europe having a stand. Not every country has that privacy change, and then are actually going to the point of policing it. And Europe, being a collection of 27 plus countries, that is happening in parallel to the same thing that's happening to, well, a similar thing that's happening to Apple. So you might have heard how they're changing the law so that all devices have to have USB-C,
Yeah.
the charging, right. So you know that Apple, of course, have their own bespoke changes every year type of 5 charger. And
Yep.
then anyone who wants to integrate with Apple has to pay Apple a fee to integrate with their device to operate on their charger. And so Europe have said we're banning all but USB-C, which is a massive game changer for revenue for Apple. So they're like, we don't care. And Apple are going in like, we're going to sue Europe. And I think this is really interesting about what's happening with Google Analytics. But it feels to me like Europe are saying, look, we had enough of this. Like, you know, everyone's got a different charger every day, and the model of that, and they're taking down the big guys and saying, we're going to level the playing field. It's enough of this. And it's disadvantaging the local market, I suspect, could be one of the things, because we're all having to pay fees to Apple for the charging, whatever. And it's a significant amount, which is why Apple are willing to go to court over it. And, you know, I don't know what Google's full response will be to this, but, you know, I really admire the fact that a big part of the world has decided we're going to actually hold organizations to account.
Yes.
We won't just, you know, let it happen. We don't care who you are. And maybe it's the might of Europe versus one country, which starts to add up and make it viable. But it tells me the values of that part of the world are so strong on these things that they're willing to say that you can't do this.
Yeah, I like it as well. Although if I had to decide between governments and corporations, which I prefer, like there's no, I don't have a side in that fight. I don't particularly enjoy either of them.
Neither.
Whereas at least if governments are standing up against these corporations for things like consumer rights, don't make people buy a different charger every year, don't take their data. You know, it just seems to me that if these corporations were a little bit less greedy, you know, if they were a little bit less intrusive, then maybe it would be okay. But like, I don't know of a marketer who needs an IP address. There are services that will track the IP address to the company. So, but then you will know somebody in this company was on your website. It's not useful. Do you know what I mean? It's not categorically not useful. So why be extracting that data or collecting that data when you know you don't have to? And the thing is, it sounds a little bit like a story that we spoke about 2 weeks ago in reverse, where Americans were up in arms because TikTok were transferring data to China. But here we are, Google, this American corporation, is transferring data to the United States, which has been illegal since GDPR came out. When did that happen? 2016, 2017? Yeah. It's been illegal for 4, 5, 6 years now. They could have made a plan. They have servers in Europe. They don't have to transfer this data. Do you know what I mean? It just seems like if they weren't so grasping, if they were taking a reasonable amount, then they wouldn't be in this situation, but they are. And if the idea of these businesses is to serve markets, why are they in court every 20 minutes? Do you know what I mean? Why do these things have to be resolved? If they wanted to be nice businesses and do nice things and actually provide valuable services without causing damage, why are they in court every 20 minutes? You know, it's yeah.
It's interesting because, we're hearing about them a lot. Are McDonald's in court every 5 minutes, or do they have too much money that they can just hush someone down and stay out of court, or are they actually just keeping with the law? There's big brands that are not in court, to my knowledge, at least not famously so every 5 minutes, which
Yeah.
is right now, that is the story right now with Google. And maybe it's a sign of the times that privacy is the thing. The digital world is really, this is our moment to make decisions about what it's going to be.
Yes.
So that makes it for exciting times. But maybe that's why these companies in particular. Was this true when? Because you go back, I always like to look at the historical context when suddenly everyone was driving in cars. What was in 1900? Was there suddenly Ford was in court every year about how come you're using the horse lane? You know what I mean? Like, I do wonder if this is a pattern that the new industry is under attack while we make decisions about what's acceptable and make laws that are clear and abided by and so forth, and tighten up loopholes and all that.
Yeah.
It's a sign of that.
Yes. 100%. The thing that we have to be wary of also is that this might have been not produced by Kathleen O'Kane. This might also, it was on CBS News, so maybe it was produced by Kathleen O'Kane. Maybe this was just an opportunity to, I don't know. Maybe this is news. I looked at what's coming next. It's this story, in fact, Google Analytics. It's Android Police. So what might be coming next is this thing I found called Simple Analytics, the privacy first Google Analytics alternative. This costs $9 a month, and but it is very simple. It's very basic. So what I'm thinking is, like, by the time these things move, it's going to be a wrench in my life because I have 2 customers who use Google Analytics. I can't imagine what it would have been like all that time ago when I had, Lord knows, 30 customers at a time. But it is going to be a wrench in my life. I'm going to have to find something new. I'm going to have a conversation with them. The data that we've been reporting previously is no longer available. It's going to be a wrench. But yeah, I don't really know what the answer is. The answer is it's coming. We'll just have to adapt. I don't know any more than that, really. It's happening. Maybe Google Analytics is going away. Maybe, it's just going to be different in the future. Maybe it's going to go back to where it was previously, where your creative's going to have to be amazing because actually the data isn't going to be available to make sure you're landing the message on exactly the right person. So what has to happen now is your creative needs to go up because the targeting is going down. Maybe that's what's going to happen. I don't really know.
Could be interesting. Gosh.
Could be interesting. Okay, cool. So that segues us beautifully to a little bit of creative, which is the other thing that you want to talk about today, which is McDonald's. You see how slick I'm getting at this?
Yeah, I'm so impressed.
You are impressed. I'm also quite impressed. Okay, where did this come from? Okay, but I can't see the picture. That's annoying
We
now.
definitely want to see this picture. This picture is to die for.
Oh no! Wait! We can't see the picture.
There we go. Look at that. Okay. Look at that. That is a swing set. Oh, you can do on the cross. Click on the cross. It'll make big screen. There you go. Right. So your kiddies go down to Dubai on the beach, and they jump on a swing, and 2 things are happening. One, customers are engaging with the brand in a whole new way, and here, this photo is even better. Look at that. And they're creating brand content.
Yes.
And sharing pictures of themselves swinging in the arches on on social. So they're now effectively endorsing your brand. But who wouldn't take a photo of that? It's funny.
Yes.
Yeah, a bit of fun. And I did think about our own brand, Crazy Might Work, which has these black and white googly eyes, and how that would look, not necessarily as a swing, but as some other type of, check out our logo if you type in logo. Oh, let's see if it's on our homepage. Yeah,
It
so you've got
is,
all
but
this other
it's up
stuff.
there in the corner where we can't quite see it.
Right, yeah. But if you
Okay.
typed in Crazy Might Work logo, then you'll get. And my thought was, it would be quite interesting to borrow from that, and see those eyes. They could easily be some kind of cushion throwing um, activity in a park, or something like that. With these, you could have cushions in or mattresses or something in the shape of the moon and these little circles, and um, or some kind of interactive hopscotch. Who knows? But I like the idea of taking the logo, making it massive, and having customers engage with that and create content with it.
Yes.
Um, it's just a nice, playful thing to do.
Yeah, and I think this is what you do if you want to have brand, which you probably do. The next, what that is going to be brand marketing. I know that you're looking at brand in your business right now. You want to have brand, so what you want to do is establish it, like get the rules around it. This is the way it works. This is the way it looks. This is the way it functions, and then play with it. Do you know what I mean? It's like put it in all of these different environments and see how it stands up. Like it has to be solid. It has to be consistent. It has to be able to stand up to those environments. But this is, I think, the way you do brand well. You absolutely 100%, you get it right, and then you put it out into the world and let people play with it. I think the idea of brand for me is about relationship. So it's like what a brand is then essentially, if you think about it like that, is a hook to maybe not hook people in, I don't know, but to give
Unless you're
something.
Nike, that'd be a good book, wouldn't it?
Yeah, yeah. But to be sticky, do you know what I mean? To be sticky, to have it in people's lives in a way that they can engage with it. So I think 100%. I'm not a huge fan of McDonald's, I'll be honest with you. I'm too big a fan of their breakfast. I have a McDonald's breakfast at least twice a week and maybe more occasionally. If I swim or surf, I kind of feel like I'm justified to eat complete
It could be
rubbish.
worse than having a McDonald's lunch or dinner, if we're honest. Depends if you're going pancakes. But I
Sausage
think,
and egg McMuffin is what
taking
I'm going.
aside our values around McDonald's itself as a company, which really sell kind of junk food, right? But
Yeah.
I do love the strength of that brand, which is why it's so valuable. I mean, they just make burgers, but their processes and their brand. 70% of their money goes on marketing, so that tells
Yes.
you that only 30% goes on everything else.
Yes.
It's not the other way around. So they're not really known for saying we're going to make the most organic whatever. That's not necessarily their claim. But saying that, the brand itself, if that is true, and you think about how much revenue they make, and you understand that 70% goes for marketing, this is where a marketer has an almost unlimited budget, and therefore you'd have to hope would come up with the most expensive ideas, the best, hopefully,
Yes.
ideas. They'll be able to go to unlimited, right? So on that basis, I go, well, okay, if that's true, then you've got to admire the lessons we can take from the brand without having to spend that same budget. Any one of us might look at our own brand and say, could my logo stand in the middle of the beach in Dubai and be clear what it was and what, or have I now realized that I've got a multicolored, indistinguishable logo that it can't be read and isn't strong and
Yes.
uh, couldn't be used in that way. And it's not for everyone to make a swing out of their logo, but it's just understanding the simplicity of their logo is what gives it its strength. It's one color, it's one shape. It's not.
Yes.
I mean, saying that there's exceptions like Ferrari, but even with them, it's the brand guidelines are intact. It's always going to be um, one particular color or one. It's not like multi this and
Yes, yes. So the thing is, that's what your brand needs to do is communicate something. What I've been doing in these reaction videos has been really cool, a bit weird. So I reacted to Apple when Steve Jobs came out and said, basically, the think different thing. or the crazy ones will change the world, all that sort of stuff. He came out and said, basically, we're living in a very noisy world, and it's going to be really hard work to get anyone to remember anything about us. So you have to work really hard to make sure that what they do remember about us is the thing that they want to remember. And that was the launch. And then since then, because we've got a bit of a system now where Clay selects the videos and I pick them blind. So the universe has wanted me to talk about originally Coca-Cola, then cigarettes, then Nestle, like these really appalling brands that really aren't adding much value to the world, but are hugely successful. Now, the lesson I'm taking from this is my mission. It's us, small businesses, versus the corporations. And the corporations are horrible. They're really not delivering us anything that's very healthy, anything that's very sustainable, anything that's very legal very often. But if they can market their businesses and be successful, then we absolutely can. So the message I would take away from this McDonald's thing is they're spending 70% on marketing. Small businesses aren't spending anything on marketing. The top 500 businesses in the world are spending 30% on marketing. Small businesses are selling nothing. So if we are serious about wanting to compete, these are the lessons that we need to learn, which is like my core message is marketing is about finding, winning, keeping customers. Actually being in business is about finding, winning, and keeping customers. The brands understand this. The corporations understand this. And if we want to be successful, we 100% need to understand this. Like if you're a one-man band and you've got no money, you should be spending a third of your week marketing yourself. That is the way you will be successful. So Absolutely. It's not just money, it's time, energy, money. Those are the investments that you need to be making if you're going to be successful.
And smart investment. So, I think, looking at doing a time audit, where are you putting your time?
Yeah.
And we had a chat earlier, which I won't repeat now, but it's understanding where is your time getting sucked away, where you believe that you're adding value, but really you're not. You could be doing something else. And I think what I liked about the McDonald's swings is that the agency they're trying to anchor memories of childhood parks.
Yeah.
And associate that with their brand. So kids on a swing on the beach, this is going to be a fun memory. And so they're going to associate that. So they're getting them when they're young, right? But that's kind of the McDonald's way is always putting some kind of playground and all that.
Yeah.
And I thought, looking at it, if I were Nike, I'd be going, don't we need to do a swoosh slide where you land in the sea? Because Nike's very much like, just do it. So
especially that could be one of those mad ones where you go down really fast and it's really steep and it throws you up in the air.
Imagine the vertical tick. That's going to be something. I'm waiting for that.
Cool. And your takeaway also is really useful. Is like we can learn something from these brands. I think that's why it's useful that I'm reacting to these videos because they are spending millions of dollars to find this stuff, and then they present it to the world. So we can just take it and pull it into our businesses and work it the way that we want to, and be more successful like that. I've got to run because I've got another call right now. This has been a brilliant chat again, Melanie Farmer. You're an absolute star for being here.
Thanks, Martin. I've learned a lot too. I better get with it. I feel out of touch already from just learning from you today, all these major news items. So I'm going to go and do some research.
You do that. You have a great day. I will see you. I'm going to throw something in your diary for 2 weeks today again. Hopefully that will be cool. Okay.
Great.
You're a legend.
See you then.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.